I'm standing tall for Canada. Hello, bonjour, this is Andy Kim. I am honored to be part of this beautiful country where people often find the impossible possible. We stand together and fight for each other, supporting Canadian businesses, buying Canadian products, protecting Canadian jobs. Shop as if your country depends on it. Keep your money in Canada for Canada.
What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto, like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1683 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Yes, we are open. An award-winning podcast from Monaris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. Toronto Maple Leafs Baseball. Join me for the home opener on May 11th at Christie Pitts. FOTMs are collecting at 1:30 p.m. beyond the left field fence. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Building Toronto Skyline, a podcast and book from Nick Iones, sponsored by Fusion Corp Construction Management Inc. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, making his Toronto Mic debut, it's award-winning filmmaker Kire Paputts. Kire, how you doing, buddy?
How's it going, Mike?
Did I nail Paputts? Or is
Paputts, pretty close.
You know what? You told me this as we met outside, and I said, oh, that's easy. I took it for granted. I was so worried about getting Kire right, I forgot to focus on... Say it one more time.
Paputts.
Paputts. Okay, nice to meet you, man.
You too.
I'm going to just tell you off the top, we're going to get to know you better, and we're going to talk about this most recent documentary that you have created, but I'll tell you, I can't remember who reached out to me, probably like a PR person, or somebody said, hey, watch this documentary. They said, it's about people in Parkdale. I was born in St. Joe's.
Okay.
I don't know if they give me any points here. I don't know. Shout out to St. Joe's. The documentary is called Always Had a Nice Time. And I'm watching this thing, and I absolutely loved it. So kudos to you, man.
Thanks, man.
It touched me immensely.
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on there.
Well, there's a lot going on in this convo here. We're gonna find out a bit more about you, and then talk a little bit more about Always Had a Nice Time. The hat you're wearing right now says Exhibition Place. What's the significance of
this? Is
hat?
Official grade. This is like when I used to work there. This was like the cleaning staff got to wear these hats, and so I worked there one summer. It was like my first part-time job, maybe. I was probably like 13, 14.
That's young.
Yeah, super young.
I was 15 my first year I worked at the CNE.
Yeah, getting paid like, what was it, $6.40 an hour back then or something crazy?
Well, I feel like I'm a lot older than you because I can tell you minimum wage when I worked at the CNE was like $3.95 or something.
Yeah, it wasn't that low.
But I know. Well,
yeah.
I'm 50, okay? But
okay.
I can tell you we were paid by Ardo Godaro of Astro Zodiac's Enterprise. Ardo Godaro is now in FOTM. You're now in FOTM. Kire, welcome to the club.
Yep.
But he paid us $5 an hour, and we felt like we were robbing a bank.
Oh, okay.
And what were you getting paid?
$6.40 an hour, maybe.
Okay.
But I mean, back then, it was like great.
You were doing all right, man. You were doing all right. I'm Joe Cocker over here, doing all right. Joe Cocker's going in the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
About time.
Yeah, come on. He gave us the theme to the Wonder Years.
It's true. He was a lot of things. I'm surprised he wasn't already in it.
I know. Jeez, but you're feeling all right here. Okay. So, Kire, why only 1 year at the CNE? Why not come back?
I think I got a job at McDonald's, which was closer.
I went CNE to McDonald's.
Did you? Were you in the back, like a line?
Yeah,
Yes.
and weekends I would be there at 6 o'clock to open up for the
Oh, yeah.
breakfast, and
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
do 6 to 12, and then 6 to 2, I think, or something, Saturday, Sunday, and then pick up other shifts along the way. But I went C&E McDonald's, and you did as well. Please tell me, was your third gig a grocery store?
Movie theater.
Oh,
I know.
Get out of my basement.
Actually, you know
Kire.
what? No, I lied. That was a grocery store. You know
What?
what? Yeah.
Are you fucking
I know.
kidding
I'm
me?
not. And I got fired. My buddy got. That's a whole other story.
See, I didn't get fired. I
Yeah.
quit. But which grocery chain?
It was a No Frills.
Okay, no frills. All right, so I'm going to just shout out the Galleria Mall where I worked at the Food City and then converted it to a Price Chopper.
What a great mall.
Yeah, now it's big condo plexes going up there
know.
now.
That's Toronto.
FOTM Shari Kasman did a great little art piece on the Gallery Mall because it was completely stuck in time. Like
I know.
it's too late now, but we need to go back and make a documentary about this mall that was just frozen in frozen in
Yeah.
the 70s.
Yeah.
I'd say it was unbelievable.
I man, if it was still around, I was allowed to shoot there. I'd make a whole film there. It'd be great.
You know what? Let's go back. Work with me on a time machine.
Sure.
And Kire,
do it.
let's do it.
All right.
How many what percentage of people mispronounce your first name? So your first name is spelled Kire, and it's pronounced Kire, because of course I nailed that one. But what would you say, like of 100 people who are calling you but only reading your name, how many know it's Kire?
100 got it wrong.
So 0 for 100.
Unless you're unless you're like Macedonian or from that region and you kind of know it.
Right.
Other than that, forget it. Yeah, it's always Kire or Kiri.
Yeah, my initial thought was Kiri.
Yeah.
But it's Kire. So my friend, maybe help me out by giving me a little of your, filmmaking origin story, and we're going to kind of maybe talk about your bio on our way to Always Had a Nice Time, and then we're going to spend a nice time talking about Always Had a Nice Time since it touched me immensely.
Yeah. I mean, I was always messing around with a video camera ever since I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7. We just had the family camera, and we just let us use it, just like kung fu movies and just dumb stuff like that. Just kind of kept with it. I went to Ryerson, now TMU, for film production. Outside of that, I made a few short films. My first short outside of university was called Animal Control. That did pretty well, premiered at TIFF and other festivals worldwide.
Wait, so they filmed, they showed, what's the word I'm looking for? They
Screened?
Screened, thank you.
Yeah.
See, you're the filmmaker here, not me. But they screened Animal Control at TIFF?
Yep. That was my first real thing. And then I kept making a few other shorts.
What was Animal Control about?
Oh, it's like a weird kind of drama / horror film about a guy who works for animal services, and he picks up roadkill all night, basically. And the ones that aren't as bad, he takes them home and like basically stuffs them. So he has like this kind of collage, like it's a whole like basically collection of like dead animals, because he doesn't have any like real people in his life. So it's like him and his dead animals, kind of his family. Finds a dog he thinks is dead, brings it home. Dog doesn't quite die, and he forms a bond with this dog throughout the movie, with like a living thing finally.
That's my cup of tea. I feel like that's right up my alley.
Yeah, it's pretty explicit and graphic. We had like an actual raccoon taxidermied in the movie, so it's always nice. In the first 5 minutes, people are walking out because they can't really handle what is going on. So that was a great film. That opened up a lot of doors in terms of just trying to get some more funding for other things. I did some other shorts, and then the big thing was I started working on a documentary with Colin Brunton, who had started it, called The Last Pogo Jumps Again.
Okay, let's slow down there. So I was recently the moderator of a panel discussion in the Red Room at the concert hall at the Masonic Temple at 888 Yonge Street, because Gary Topp put out a book. Gary, I think one of their first employees, the Garys, I think it might have even predated Gary Cormier, is Colin Brunton.
Yeah.
And Colin Brunton came over here, and we had a great chat, and I had a lot of questions about The Last Pogo. He actually gifted me, I'll show you, Kire. He gifted me a copy. I don't have any way to play this DVD right now, actually, but I just like having it on display in my studio. But he gave me a copy of The Last Pogo. But we also talked about... Dun, dun, dun. The Last Pogo Jumps Again. So please, in explicit detail, what was your role in The Last Pogo Jumps Again, Punk's Last Waltz?
So tying in Gary Top's the first person who. So I also made a doc about my family that was pretty personal and pretty raw. This was probably during the first year of university. Gary had seen it and liked it a lot and tried to help me get it out there. And that's my first introduction to Gary was through that. He was talking to me with Carrie. He was talking to me, to me with Colin Brunton, because Colin had just started doing the last pogo jumps again. Gary's like, you should talk to this kid. He's knows what he's doing. He's eager. At that time, it was a bunch of a bit of a punk resurgence happening in the city. So there were a lot of bands were reforming, playing shows at the Horseshoe, etc. So I met Colin at one of those Horseshoe shows. Colin's like, well, can I just interview you my father was in the Vile Tones, one of the more...
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was my in. So Colin's like, let's talk to a kid who is a son of a Vile Tone, see what that was like being, brought up. And then we did this interview. And after that, Colin just kind of needed help with stuff. He was like, because he was working full time on, I think at that point, he was on Little Mosque on the Prairie or one of those kind of CBC shows.
Yeah, I think you're exactly correct. Yeah.
So he was like, he didn't have time to go around and...
Maybe Schitt's Creek?
Not quite yet.
Pre-Schitt's Creek, right?
It
was 2013. Okay.
Yeah. So he was doing that. He was like... And I was pretty young and just wanted to do stuff. And last year in university, so I kind of did a co-op through Ryerson with Colin. I worked on the movie for about half a year. And my job was at first was just tracking people down, researching, interviewing people when Colin couldn't do it. Sometimes we'd do interviews together. And then when I graduated from university, I needed a job. And Colin's like, would you want to edit the film? I was like, absolutely. So I got pretty involved with that. And we worked on this thing at least 7 years. Something crazy like that,
Amazing. That's fantastic. The last pogo jumps again. What if I told you the PR company that was telling me all about this wonderful film, Always Had a Nice Time, which we'll talk about in about 25 minutes or so, gives you credit for directing the last pogo made well before your birth? I felt like writing a correction. I think you mean Last Pogo Jumps Again.
Yes. For sure.
Details matter, right?
Yeah.
Kire, come on. We're here to correct the public record here. But okay, that's a cool fun fact. And then maybe shout out a few more things you made before Always Had a Nice Time. Yeah,
so my first narrative feature was a film called Rainbow Kid that premiered at TIFF, played a bunch of other festivals, was released for a company called A71 that's no longer around, they're defunct, but that happened in 2015, and then made a second feature called The Last Porno Show, which premiered at TIFF in 2019. It was supposed to have a bit of a limited release in Canada and the States, but then of course COVID came along and basically ended all of that pretty quick.
So pre-COVID though, The Last Porno Show premieres at the 2019 TIFF, right?
Yeah.
How do you keep getting these films into, because The Rainbow Kid was at TIFF as well. I don't know if you mentioned that, 2015. So how do you keep getting these films into TIFF? A couple of people who were in this basement last week, Avi Fettergreen and Stu Stone, were talking about how they had these aspirations to get their movies into TIFF and they didn't make the cut. How do you keep getting into TIFF?
At the time, I think a lot of it is just who's programming, what are their sensibilities. I think at the time Steve Gravestock was the main guy there. He just liked what I was doing. But that, again, it changes, people retire, people pass away, things change. And then, you're kind of at the mercy of sensibilities and tastes of whoever takes over. Right. So I think in that regard, I just got kind of lucky because we didn't get, Last Porno Show got zero press that year. No one would talk about it, no one would touch it, but Steve Gravestock, bless his heart, he thought, he saw something in it and it's like, this should be played here. And he did. And people who see it really like it. It was just kind of, trying to convince.
What's it about?
Oh, The Last Porno Show is about a young aspiring actor who inherits the last adult cinema from his estranged father in Toronto. And basically what happens is he really wasn't raised by his father. He was taken away at a young age, and he has a lot of resentment towards his dad and what happened. And so getting to kind of take over this theater, he kind of learns about his father, who he was, and at the same time, he lands this role in a movie that is kind of, similar or pulls a lot from, I think, his father and who his father was. So he kind of, in a weird way, kind of takes this method approach and kind of becomes his dad for this role while also running this adult movie theater. And it kind of goes off the rails from there.
Again, right up my alley.
Yeah.
And I think this is, again, the first film I ever saw from you was this most recent effort, Always Had a Nice Time. And there's something raw about it, something genuine. Like it feels authentic, like a real slice of Toronto life. And I think a lot of us are craving that. Like in this world of like AI slop and overproduction and smoke and mirrors and bullshit baffling brains, I feel like this authentic slice of Toronto life, that's the sweet spot. That's what a lot of us are looking for.
I hope so. It's tough. I mean, it's really hard to get out there, and no one will touch the film. So I'm happy that you enjoyed it, and I think people want that.
No one will touch the film except Toronto Mike.
Yeah. I mean, people. Okay. It's funny. People who do see the movie really respond to it, and they really get something out of it. I think it's just trying to convince the larger entities out there that this is worth gambling on or promoting.
Well, so this is all excellent teaser, because basically once we're going to get you to that film, I have a few more curiosity questions. And then I'm going to give you some gifts for being here and just make an announcement to the FOTMs listening. And then we're going to talk in excruciating detail about this movie, because I like the deep dives here, okay? We're not doing the 5 to 7 minute hits here. So, is the last porno show the last movie you made before Always Had a Nice Time?
Yes. It was basically... I'd finished it, played TIFF, played Torino, a few other places. Again, it was supposed to come out limited theatrical in the States and Canada. That all got ruined basically with COVID. And then I spent about a year figuring out what the hell am I going to do? Because things were kind of uncertain movie-wise. A lot of producers weren't taking a lot of new material because they had things that they couldn't get made from previous, prior COVID. And I always just, wasn't getting any funding, wasn't getting any kind of traction or anything else I wanted to do. So I was like, well, what the hell can I do basically on my own with a camera?
Right.
And so that's how it started with Always Had a Nice Time.
Did you play a role in the 2024 film Self-Driver?
I did. I was a producer on that.
How come you didn't mention it when I said...
Well, it comes after. It comes after Always Had a Nice Time, I guess.
Okay, yes. Well, to me, this is a 2025 release. So
fair enough. Yeah. So Self-Driver is written by Michael Piero, who is a good friend who I known since my film school days. Mike has also edited The Rainbow Kid, and he edited Last Porno Show. He's also a director. Before, he did a bunch of shorts, and he was like, "Hey, man, I want to do this really low-budget feature. Would you help me produce it?" And I was like, absolutely. And so we set out to make that. That's a very Toronto movie, actually, Self-Driver.
I love the Toronto stuff. So budget and funding in these words I hear tossed around. Again, full disclosure is I do produce a show for Avi Feder-Green called Unleashed. And he has guests on where they spend, basically they spend 60 minutes talking about the Canadian... I don't want to put words in his mouth, but essentially the system of filmmaking in this country is broken. And they talk about how difficult it is to secure funding and get some of the great exposure you got at these TIFF, at the Toronto International Film Festival, etc. How do you finance this film? Like when you make Always Had a Nice Time, which in moments we'll go into for great detail about, what is your budget for that and where does that budget come from?
So in that particular case... Because it was just me and a camera, it cost nothing. I borrowed a camera for some friends. They weren't using it. And it was like, I gave them producer credits. So shout out to Silent Partner Pictures and of your productions. Great friends of mine. They're like, take our camera for a bit. And so it literally was just me, just my time.
So it's your blood, sweat, and tears.
Exactly.
And you borrowed the gear.
But
it can't cost nothing, right?
So the only real cost came during post-production. So I edited the movie myself as well. So the money I did spend on it was color correct, a sound mix, and basically music licensing and live score. So those were the only real costs for the movie. You
know what? Welcome to my world, except I just skipped those costs. Okay, right? So so what is that approximately? What are we talking? Like 20 grand, 100 grand? What are we talking here?
60K, maybe to get it finished.
So there you go. So not nothing though. Okay, but so this 60,000, I am just curious how the sausage gets made here. You're not out of pocket the 60K, are you?
No, maybe 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a significant piece of coin there. But where does the rest come from? You pass around a hat at parties?
In this case, well, again, it was really hard to get funding for this doc. I figured it's, I've had 3 films that premiered at TIFF. I thought I'd get some money to make this very Toronto doc. I thought it was very interesting and raw, and like you said, right? But no one would touch it.
I absolutely loved it. Like, I wouldn't even have had you on. I actually went back to the person. I watched the film. I shared the top secret link with, although top secret, I shared it with the VP of sales. Listeners know who that is. He also loved it. And I basically went back and said, get me Kire in the basement.
And I'm here.
I want to talk about. And you're here.
Yeah, and I'm here.
So that's all I have to do. Just visualize it happen.
That's right. Manifest, right?
Manifest.
That's all it's about.
It's manifest destiny over here.
Yeah.
So you were saying, though, about that missing. So you're putting in 15. You still got to come up like 45 or something like that?
Yeah. So I was lucky, out of all, Ontario Arts Council, there's 6 jury members who thought this film was worth investing in. And that was for post-production. So I basically had shot it, edited it myself. I sent them a cut to say, hey, I need money to finish this thing properly. And they awarded me $40K to finish it. And I was kind of surprised a bit by that. But also really happy that there is opportunity to get funding to make things that are really outside the norm. So it's not a commercially, like this film isn't going to be commercially successful.
No, it's too raw. It's too gritty, too raw, right?
Yeah, yes and no. It's tough. I feel like this would be perfect CBC material. It's very Canadian. It's very local. I can understand maybe why they don't want, but it's Canadian voices that no one is sharing or listening to, right?
And that's key. Again, we're going to get into that, but yes, these are not the voices that are typically amplified in cinema.
100%. But that's always been, I think, that's one thing with my work is a lot of times my work does center around outsiders, people on the fringes. Those, who don't really have a voice in the arts. And this is kind of just a continuation of that. But just instead of narrative, it's just a documentary form.
And I think that's why I found it so refreshing because I bike. I was on King Street yesterday. I was biking King Street yesterday. I bike these neighborhoods every single day of the year, basically. I know these streets and a lot of the characters, I'd say, on these streets. It's like you kind of bike by them and you see them and, oh, this is Toronto. And you don't ever explore or shine a light on these human beings that are coexist with us in this great city.
Yeah. No, again, it's or if you do see something in this fashion, it's usually handled with like kid gloves, or it's not. I feel like it's not a real genuine kind of raw approach. And yeah, for me, it's just like. I just wanted to talk to some interesting people. I think you're interesting. Let's have a conversation, see where this goes.
I think the best word for it is these people are underrepresented.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But they should be. Again, I think, if CBC's mandate is to, really be there for all Canadian voices, then they should, be paying attention to things like this.
So you're mentioning one public broadcaster, the CBC, but there's another public broadcaster that should be interested in this, and I'm thinking of TVO.
Absolutely. Sure.
Like it would fit right in. And now I'm going to segue over to another FOTM who makes documentary films that I also adore. And I think for similar reasons. And when I was watching yours, I was actually thinking about some of his movies I've enjoyed.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
It's because he's a Canadian, right?
He's, he lives in Toronto.
Alan Zweig?
Correct.
Yeah.
Good on you. So I was thinking of Alan.
Yeah.
And, Alan's been over a couple of times, and he came out to a TMLX event. In a moment, I'm going to tell everybody about TMLX 18. But Alan knows I enjoy his films, and I find your films remind me of his films, and I like yours as well. So obviously, this is a taste I have. Is Alan Zweig an inspiration for you as a filmmaker?
Alan's made some great movies. I met Alan for the first time at TIFF. So he had his film Hurt, which is a fantastic doc that's never been released for, I think, some legal reasons, which is too bad because it's amazing. And I had The Rainbow Kid, and I met him just through that. TIFF did at parties and kind of just hit it off. Alan was one of the first people I showed a cut to of Always Had a Nice Time, and I was asking him some stuff about that.
Okay, so what a small world, right?
Yeah.
Like, so this is as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this kind of like the guys, like the guy in Vinyl or whatever. You kind of get to know this character in Vinyl, and then and then I'm thinking of you, and there's another filmmaker, and I could butcher his name, Alan King. Do I have the right name?
Oh yeah, Alan King, great, another great
so
filmmaker.
there's a guy who, whenever TVO would air an Alan King doc, I was there for it, and because I knew it'd be goat. He made a doc about dying at grace.
Oh man, that movie is like, I mean, it's that was a like 3.5 hours of watching people die of cancer slowly. It's like
I couldn't look away, and I found it so compelling and and real. And then so this is the taste I have, which is why you're in the basement right now. But so those are some filmmakers, some Canadians that you'd see on TVO. So I feel like your film, Always Had a Nice Time, would be appropriate for a screening on TVO. Yeah,
I agree. I think me and Alan, I think we have different approaches to film because Alan's very much a part of his own movies. I try not to be, but
like Michael Moore style.
Yeah, but I think with Alan, I think we're interested in the same worlds, same kind of people, right? I think that's what Alan's made some fantastic movies, and I remember watching Hurt at TIFF, and I have no idea what I was watching, and it's like, this is fantastic. So yeah, and Alan's been a real strong supporter of this film and my other work. So
any other inspirations, as you're talking about a kid with a video camera, I'm thinking, oh, that's like the Spielberg story, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was at the age, when Tarantino came out, I think when I was 11 or 12, that's who I wanted to be, right? It's mimicking Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction. I think I was lucky. A lot of my film taste came from my dad, who had, I think, really good taste. I was watching things at a very, very young age that may be too young to watch, but definitely left an impression on me.
Yeah, you're like 8 years old watching like Straw Dogs or whatever.
Yeah, or Pink Flamingos or something crazy. Really, right? It's kind of like really raw, out there, trash cinema, and that had a huge impact on me growing up.
So do you want to shout out just before we segue over to the Always Had a Nice Time deep dive, any other filmmaker inspirations that kind of shaped Kire?
So many. I mean, Tim Burton's early stuff was a huge influence on me. I would say someone, like Scorsese, like more like the heavy hitters.
Well, you're naming the big ones, right? I mean, Scorsese, Tarantino, hook it all to my veins. Let's go.
I mean,
and Burton. I loved Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
That's my favorite film.
I rewatched it because I have two younger kids, and we just watched it together, and it's fucking great.
Best movie ever, man.
Okay.
You can't top it. And
we're going to cancel the deep dive on Always Had a Nice Time and talk about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. PG, Mr. Herman.
So something like that, or like Harmony Korine came out when I was pretty young, so something like Gummo was a huge, just seeing that kind of cinema and being like, oh, okay, it's there's movies outside of just larger Hollywood system, right? That
more
kind of
irreverent stuff, outsider stuff. Geez, now I'm going to let you know there is no basement at the Alamo, okay?
Right.
So, despite what you might have heard here. He was dear friends, Paul Rubens was dear friends with Elvira, whose real name is Cassandra Wilson. I'm going to go with that because I could kind of see it.
Cassandra's right. I'm not sure about the last name, though.
Yeah, okay. Cassandra Wilson could be it. But what I didn't realize till this reviewing with the kids is in the
biker mama.
The biker,
yeah.
That's her.
Yeah,
but for some reason, I guess, you see it sometimes mainly as a younger person, and then you don't connect these dots. But yeah, that's Cassandra.
Well, there's no makeup. There's no.
Oh, you know what? While you talk, by the way, because in my mind it's Cassandra Wilson, but it might not be Cassandra Wilson, and I feel like we need to get this exactly right.
Yeah, we should get it right.
Okay,
she deserves it.
Yeah, but it's Cassandra Peterson.
Okay,
so I don't know who Cassandra Wilson is, but Cassandra Peterson here. And then also, this is funny. I was on a Plex server or whatever, just watching some old news radio episodes, just to pass the time. It's in the background while I worked on some stuff. I got news radio on because I really liked Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall, but I liked Phil Hartman, and he's in that clique too. That he's a big part of the early Pee-wee.
Well, he co-wrote the script. Yeah. He's at the little cameo at the very end.
Yeah.
He's great. Phil Hartman's great. Great guy.
Gone too soon. Good Canadian. And it's funny to see him and Dave Foley in this in news radio. A couple of Canucks going at it. Big American sitcom. Okay, so here's the deal. You taking notes here, Kire? So the Toronto Mike Listener Experience 18, aka TMLX 18, is happening May 11th. That's coming up. That's 2 Sundays from now. Everyone is invited. We're going to collect Beyond the Left Field Fence at Christie Pitts for 1:30 p.m. So take notes, everybody. Sunday, May 11th, 1:30. We're going to witness history. There's a Japanese woman named Sato who's going to pitch for the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team. This is the first time in Canada a woman has played professional men's baseball. So it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a great afternoon. Everyone is invited. I have a gift for you, Kire. This book, courtesy of Toronto Maple Leafs baseball, that's the history of Toronto Maple Leafs. There's a lot of great Toronto history there. They used to play on the island. Babe Ruth hit his first professional home run there. Then they moved where that Tip Top Taylor condo building is there, Stadium Road. They had a wonderful stadium there, Maple Leaf Stadium. And now they're at Christie Pitts, and everybody's invited May 11th.
Awesome.
Pausing for applause, Kire. Okay, so also I'm going to give you fresh craft beer from our local brewery, Great Lakes Brewery. You'll love that. They brew that in Southern Etobicoke. I have in my freezer a large lasagna, courtesy of Palma Pasta. Palma Pasta will feed us at TMLX 19. That is at Great Lakes Brewery here in Southern Etobicoke on June 26th from 6 to 9. So again, remember, Christie Pitts on May 11 for 18. And then 19 is June 26th at Great Lakes Brewery. Get it, got it, good. You'll love the lasagna. I have a measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home. Might be the last. I believe it to be the last Toronto funeral home where the owner and his family, or their family, lives on site. At the same...
Okay.
I don't think that exists. It's like 6 Feet Under style. I don't think it exists in Toronto, except at Ridley Funeral Home. There's a measuring tape for you.
Beautiful.
Measure what you wish.
Right?
Shout out to Nick Iones. His podcast is called Building Toronto Skyline. He also has a podcast called Building Success. We're recording a new episode on Friday. Don't miss it. Nick Iones is a great supporter of this podcast. We love Nick Iones. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. I can imagine as a filmmaker, you might have a room or a closet or a drawer or who knows, full of like old tech, old electronics that don't function. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Or cables even, old cables that haven't worked since 1997 or something like that. That stuff doesn't go in the garbage because the chemicals end up in our landfill. That goes into, you go to your web browser, you go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, you put in your postal code and find out where you can drop it off to be properly recycled. You got it, Kire?
Got it. Okay,
and last but not least, I'll give you some new tech, so this stuff doesn't need to be recycled, but this is a wireless speaker.
Ooh.
It is courtesy of Moneris. What are you going to do with that speaker? I'm going to give you a little info on what you can do with that speaker. You can subscribe and listen to Yes, We Are Open, which is an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by Al Grego. Al went to Regina, Saskatchewan. Have you, Kire, ever been to Regina, Saskatchewan?
Not yet.
Have you been to Saskatchewan?
Not yet.
So we have this in common, too. I have also not been to Saskatchewan one day. But Al went. I think it was his first visit out there. He visited Tracy Bosch, the owner of Zippity Zoom Toys in Regina, and Tracy shared her inspiring story of how she started the toy store in 2009, juggling a newborn and a new business. And she talked about the evolution of the store, her background in retail, and her passion for toys. So you'll be inspired by these small business owners who talk to Al, the cuddly one. Al's confirmed for TMLX 19. I just have to confirm he'll be at TMLX 18. And I believe you can get a hug with Al free of charge.
Great.
If you're interested. It's optional. All right. Now let's talk about Always Had a Nice Time. What you kind of alluded to this earlier when you talked about having some time during the pandemic, but what was the impetus for making a film about these underrepresented people in Parkdale?
So again, yeah, I had finished this other movie, Last Porno Show, basically died during COVID. I was getting antsy and squirrely, wasn't getting any funding for anything else I wanted to do. So I could just keep waiting around and hope to get funding, sometime. I was like, well, I'll just go make something myself. I'd done something similar in the past around 2000 and, maybe 14. Mm-hmm. I did a short doc series on Gerrard Street East, where I grew up, like Little India, basically.
Right.
And so I did that. Bell Media played it, And it was like, it was like 2 seasons, so like 12 short episodes of just different people and things, places, businesses in my neighborhood where I grew up.
Right.
And at first I was like, well, maybe I'll do something like that with Parkdale. I'll just do the Parkdale version of Gerard Treaties. I'll just do like 12 mini docs or 6 mini docs of people in businesses and kind of string it together and try to sell it. So I started out, I knew Jack, who lived down there already, and I knew Kingy. So there was 2 people I knew I wanted to at least talk to.
And Jack, a gay man who feels he does not fit into the stereotypical queer community, and he's kind of working to strike out on with a movement of his own.
Yeah, so Jack is an artist. He started a art movement called Spiritual Depressionism, which is like these huge kind of like more sculptured pieces that are great. But I had met Candy first, which we'll get to later, through, because
Candy close of Candy, maybe.
Yeah,
Candy's
also
fascinating. She's amazing.
Candy is in Last Porno Show, so that's how I got that connection. Went down there, and as I was filming stuff, like meeting other people, I met like Ronnie and Phil just through Jack, or my friend Mike Dent, who lives down there, introduced some people. He helped me out with some stuff. So I was just kind of meeting people as I hung around the neighborhood.
So as you name drop, I'll just fill in a little crack. So Ronnie and Phil, these are like these 2 best friends. They're panhandlers, and they're suffering through alcoholism and poverty kind of together.
Yeah. They're guys who just hang out on the street and they like have a good time and like to bring smiles to people's faces and raise a few bucks just to keep just keep going, right? And I met Grizz, who's living in an encampment at the corner of Dufferin and Queen. He was an artist as well. I remember walking by and he had all this art. It was a nice sunny day. I was like, it's like just so many crazy, like so many pieces. I was like, who is this? And talked to him for a bit and kind of formed relationships with him. And so, I met all these people pretty early on. I was just filming them. And then again, I was still thinking like, maybe it is like a short doc series. And then I was thinking, well, maybe it's not. Maybe I can find some common thread and make it a feature. And Alan Zweig, who I cut together like a small teaser kind of reel of just like some of the best things I was getting. And I was like, Alan, I was thinking of, do you think it should be a feature or a short doc series? And Alan's like, no, you should do a feature. And so he was also kind of like, thought that and encouraged that. And so I kind of pivoted from doing the short doc thing to now making it a full length feature film.
Just so the listenership knows, I actually had zero idea Alan played any role at all in this project. So it's just interesting that I was always going to ask you about Alan just because your work reminded me of his. And but I had no idea he played such a significant role in how this came to be. Yeah,
he was just Alan's always been very supportive and like for feedback, and so he encouraged me to keep going with stuff. And then again, he was kind of also on the side of make it a feature film, make it a 90-minute film about these people. And so that's kind of where I started. And once I realized it was a feature, I started cutting things together. I was cutting the film for like over a year. I was trying to find threads and how does this thing all come together, because the people in the movie, like, they're pretty different.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find for me, it was the hard thing was kind of finding what's that kind of common factor in all these people's lives that I can look at. And so once I kind of realized it was more about people doing what makes them happy outside of I guess what we think of the, societal norms and what that looks like, I realized that was kind of the backbone of the film. And once I had that in place, I kind of just started putting it all together. And it took a while, but it's finally done.
And just, because we're going to close with Candy, but a little more about, Grizz. So Grizz is the underhoused indigenous painter.
Yep. So Grizz is someone, again, I just met him. He was just living in an encampment. He was just, for a guy living in an encampment, I remember he was how positive and how fun he was. And I was like, wow, I think I'd be a little more miserable in this situation. He had a lot of heart. He talked about losing 2 of his daughters and his granddaughter, right? He was like dealing with grief, and he was kind of using, I think, a lot of his painting to deal with that and kind of, use it as almost like therapy, right?
What I liked many things about this movie, but what I really liked is how you humanize these people that I think were kind of conditioned to walk by. Like we just kind of we walk right by them, or in my case, I bike right by them. But like Ronnie and Phil, these are human beings. You completely humanize them, and we kind of hear their story. And then Grizz, you're talking about, and Jack, of course, and we'll close with Candy. But You mentioned King. Is it Kingy?
Kingy Carpenter. Yeah.
Kingy Carpenter. A little bit different, this is an iconic Queen Street West business woman who, it's Peach Berserk, right, is her long-running brand, and she's, still there as Queen West gentrifies.
Yeah, and Kingy was great, and Kingy, again, was also she's someone who is not necessarily like a normal person, not that something wrong with that. I think, when I say the word character, I think that's like the highest kind of, what you can aspire to be a character. I think, why be normal? So Kingy, she's iconic in terms of Toronto fashion, what she's done with Peach Berserk and screen printing, but she also has like the largest collection of paint by numbers, at least in Canada. It's insane, like thousands.
Wow.
And I was like, that's not a normal thing to do. And I was interested, like, what drives someone to do this? And someone who's, she's, I think, in her 50s now, and someone who is still grinding it out. It's someone who's doing what she loves and not just kind of giving in to what, people expect from a 50-year-old or 60-year-old woman. You know what I mean?
So these people we meet, so Ronnie and Phil, Jack, Kingy, and Grizz, okay, all wonderful to learn more about these underrepresented people in our community living in Parkdale. But again, we heard a little bit moments ago of how you met Candy, but I think watch the film. Candy's the star of this show.
Yeah, she's so memorable. There's so many moments with her, and I remember one of the first things I filmed was the Jack kind of transforming into Candy to go out. Right. And it was that scene I realized I had something pretty special. I was like, okay, this is actually really interesting. And I was like, got really excited because at first when I started making this doc, the first few days I went to Parkdale, I got nothing interesting. I was like kind of running around. I was like having second doubts. Maybe I shouldn't do this doc. And then it's, it only takes one thing to be like, no, actually, I'm on the right track, and that was that for me. And, Candy has opened up my eyes, and Jack in particular, both of them, just to, what it means to live your life to its fullest and do what you want to do, and without worrying about repercussions.
Well, for better or worse, and sadly in 2025, often it's for worse, but there's a lot of discourse and conversation about trans people. And
Sure.
I feel like there's a great percentage of the populace who don't know a trans person. They don't understand trans people, especially in the United States, less so thankfully up here, but in the United States, we literally hear rhetoric from the president about the gender you're assigned at birth is what we want on the passports and the washroom you can use and all this bullshit, which just sickens me here. And then we meet Candy, who doesn't really fit like Candy is trans woman, and Candy's just like a superstar in waiting, like this wonderful personality, this wonderful woman, and we get to really explore Candy, what makes her tick, but she doesn't really fit into like the typical discourse or whatnot of what a trans person should be. And it to me, this was the heart of the movie, and it can truly a new appreciation and understanding. And I wish more. We'll talk before we say goodbye. We'll talk more about how do you get eyeballs on this and how do you get it in theaters when it's so real and raw and different. And I could see some people being, oh, Candy, and then there's a scene at the end I won't talk about, but maybe a little more, if you don't mind, about Candy and how she breaks the mold and how she helps people maybe understand better the underrepresented people in our community, like Candy. Yeah,
the thing with Candy is Candy for me is one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. Yeah. But unfortunately, that terrifies a lot of people. Candy definitely people told me they're terrified of Candy. And some of that could be transphobia. Some of it just could be also, I think, the idea of what Candy represents is someone who is not afraid to kind of do whatever they want to do and live life their way. And I think so many people are stuck in their lives. Maybe they want to do things differently or afraid to kind of take a chance or, do certain things. And they see Candy, who's someone who's, all caution's thrown into the wind. And maybe that terrifies them too. Like someone who's like that free and liberating in some ways. You know what I mean? It's, for me, filming with Candy at first was kind of, for me, it pushed my limits and okay, am I actually going to film all this stuff, like what's going to happen. Then like, and it took me just a bit to be like, no, it's fine. Everybody here is consenting. Everybody here is having a great time. There's nothing out, it's fine.
I'm not going to spoil anything except, I'll just say it's as raw as you can imagine, right? This is, you know what scene I'm talking about. But, and it's almost like, I'm watching this. You almost feel like you're intruding. Like it's, should I be watching this? This is a very private moment. But like you said, these are consenting adults and you're showing an underrepresented community.
Yeah, and I think, I grew so much as a person just by doing this film and working with Candy, being like, I never thought I'd be filming half this stuff. And then what do you do? The thing with documentary is like, I think if you want to do a real documentary and be honest, you have to go wherever the content takes you, even if it means kind of pushing you outside of your own comfort zone, right? And that's what, for me, it was at first. And now, by the last scene in the movie, like, I was pretty desensitized by most of the stuff. So I was kind of like, this is another day of Candies, right? And but it definitely took some time to get there even for myself, Yeah,
I think Candy's a superstar. Like, it's a superstar, and you're here to let us know about this superstar.
Yeah,
like an unknown superstar.
She's she's self-proclaimed. She's the Canada's biggest whore, right? And that's what she wants to be known as and what she wants to do. And like, if I can help make her that or get her closer to that, then I'm happy to do that, right?
Yeah, like whore, literally, I'm trying to remember now. Is it a necklace, like a whore necklace? I'm trying to remember. There's it's
like a sticker.
Oh, a sticker. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to remember here. But okay, so we meet basically in the Parkdale community and Toronto. This is Toronto mic'd, so we kind of talk like everybody knows Toronto. But basically, it's a community. And again, the hospital I was born at is in Parkdale, but I wasn't raised in Parkdale. I was raised in York, not York region, but the borough of York. So, but I spent a lot of time in Parkdale. Love Parkdale. But we meet Candy, Ronnie, and Phil. We meet Jack, Kingy, Grizz, and then in like over like 90 minutes or whatever, we spend time, and it just feels very raw, and it's an underrepresented group that you get to explore and appreciate. And all in all, I left this film just wanting to share it. Like, I just wanted other people to see this. Like, this exists. And again, I said this off the top, but kudos to you, because I don't know where it airs. Like, we just talked about CBC Gem or whatever and TVO, but it's not exactly. Like, it's not Disney here, right? You didn't Disney-fy this story. No. So, but
I also feel like, I will say, I feel like what I'm showing is no less upsetting than watching the 6 o'clock news. Honestly, you turn on like the National, and it's like there's so many things happening in the world that are way crazier than what I'm showing. But for some reason, because I think a lot of it's to do with sex, and I think as Canadians, I think we pride ourselves on being pretty progressive, but I don't know if we're as progressive as we think we are, or we're not quite there yet in some ways, especially when it comes to sex. And
interesting, right? Because this is a transgender woman, so is it just doesn't fit our norms or whatever?
I think what it is, because I think people, they think of trans and they think of like that show, sort of that that was again more kind of a sanitized version, like what we normally see. And Candy is like basically takes the trans mold and just like destroys it. And it's something totally not what we're used to. And so I think that, again, for people is just not something that maybe they're uncomfortable with how they should react to this. Like, what am I watching? How should I respond? Should I, should I be sad by this? Should I laugh at certain moments? Because I think there's a lot of humor in this movie. Yeah. And for me, it's always fun. Like, it's almost like, let's see who's willing to like go along with the humor and, and just give into it and not get too uptight about should I laugh or not, because I think we're never laughing at the people in the movie. We're kind of laughing with them, right?
100%.
Yeah.
No, and that's, they're not the butt of the joke. No, absolutely not. Now, please tell the listenership who now want to know what the heck Mike is all in love with here. How does one watch Always Had a Nice Time?
So at the moment, the only way you can watch it is by signing up for my mailing list. So www.madebyotherpeople.com, which is my production company. If you sign up for a mailing list, you'll be sent a link to the movie and you can watch it for free.
I like how you added the www. Like, I feel like you're too young for that.
I think about my dad who can barely use a computer, so I'm trying to make it easy for like the older generation who might not quite have
right
had that experience.
Well, shout out to the Vile Tones. Okay,
Yeah.
So that address again is what was that address again?
www.
You do that again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Made by other people.
Madebyotherpeople.com.
Yeah.
So you go there, you sign up for the mailing list, you'll get an email with a link to watch Always Had a Nice Time. Yep. And then talk to me. Like I went on Blue Sky, so I watched it, and again, I went on Blue Sky right away, and I was like, I just watched this film. I said, I couldn't believe it. Like I was just like, this is what I'm hungry for. Like I don't need Disneyfied version of this and that, and polished this and glamour that. Like this was so raw, real, and authentic, and and it's such a slice of Toronto that is underrepresented. So I was really appreciative that you made this movie.
Thanks. I had a lot of, honestly, of all the things I've done, I had the most fun making this film. Just me and a camera and talking to people. It was the most fun I've ever had making any kind of project.
So when did it wrap? Like when did it wrap, and have you talked to Candy since?
Oh, I saw Candy I saw Jack last week maybe. It wrapped up again because I didn't really have a dedeline. Like I was trying to get like no festival would play this film, so I was trying to get the festivals. I
kind of want to talk about that at the same time. So maybe you'll let me multiverse here,
sure.
But like. Maybe share any frustrations, because I mean you're giving away this movie just so people can see it, because you're proud of it.
No one will touch it,
right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going. Like, why won't anyone touch? Is it just? It's just because? Is it possibly that they find that scene is too controversial? These consenting adults, it's still too controversial on some level for mainstream media.
I just think they're cowards. Honestly, it's like distributor, I can understand. Yeah, they're not going to make a sale to CBC. They're not going to make a sale to Bell with this, unfortunately. But they should. Again, I feel like if CBC's wants to put their money where their mouth is and actually be representing all Canadian voices, this is definitely something that is unlike anything else. So, but it's not going to happen. So I think I can understand from a money perspective why maybe a distributor wouldn't want to touch it. Festivals, though, I feel like festivals, it's their job to kind of go, to want to champion stories and films that are trying to go outside the norm. Again, I mean, the programmers at TIFF who I liked my work are either retired or passed away. So when I submitted this film, they just said no. So again, I don't know, what their tastes are or what it is. But
they don't give a reason, right? They just say no.
It's just, and I could have asked, but I was like, at that point, I don't care. You don't want to play it, don't play it. Then I'll find another avenue. But literally every festival, whether it be big or even the smallest film festivals, like no one would touch it. And I was disappointed, not totally surprised in some ways, but just disappointed. I feel like someone should have saw something in this and go, this resonated with me. I think audience will, it'll resonate with them as well. So I don't know. We're in a weird time. I don't know.
Well, they're wrong on this one. Okay, I'm here to tell you the mainstream places that would air such a film are getting it very wrong this time. They're wrong.
They're wrong.
Okay, so we agree on that here. Okay, so now it's people sign up for the mailing list. They get the link. They get to consume it. Is there any plan down the road, or you're moving on to the next project now? What's going on with Kire?
I feel like a lot of my work is one of those things. I hope at this point, like it'll eventually kind of find more of an audience and get more, just noticed that way. I think this film, the more I build my mailing list, the more people will get out there and hear about it. I just hope it'll spread. Like I was out in Parkdale 2 weeks ago, like putting up flyers on billboards or not billboards, get telephone poles. It's like scan this QR code and watch the movie for free, and so that got some traction. So I'm trying things like that. But yeah, I feel like the film, it'll live there. And part of me also, at first, I was trying to take more of a traditional route with distribution, but that's also kind of broken in Canada in terms of how that works. That's a whole other podcast. But that might be, and again, I produced this show for Avi Federgreen, but would you return to this very basement for an hour chat with Avi Federgreen? 100%. Talk about this,
because I'm going to send a note later today. Yeah. Avi, you got to talk to Kire, and I think that you guys would have the most amazing conversation. And again, I'm speaking as a complete outsider, but I feel like both of you guys on the inside, it would be compelling.
Yeah, no, for sure. But so I felt like, again, it wasn't any traction regular distribution wise. So I felt like, and also I felt like making money off this movie kind of felt weird. Those people's stories. So I felt like, well, you know what? it's more important that people just hear these people's stories. So I didn't really care about. And again, I didn't spend any money really. It was, it was not much for me.
15,000 is not nothing.
It was honestly, I had so much fun making it. It was worth every penny. So I was like, put it out for free. People can just watch it and spread, and just kind of get to know the community, get to know these people. And that for me was like enough. So I'm happy with just kind of having it out there for free for everybody to watch and enjoy.
And it can't hurt that, we're now having an hour conversation about this, and who knows who will hear it. Because I can tell you, when Steve Paikin hears this, he'll probably send a note to TVO and say, hey, let's get our shit together and get this
thing going.
Yeah, let's get I feel like it would fit perfectly on TVO. I've seen movies similar to this, as raw as this on TVO.
I agree. Let's make it happen.
Pre-internet, I got to say, pre-internet. Well, yeah, I'll say pre-internet. A lot of these films that I'd see on like TVO docs, like they really helped shape me. Like this is like, these are not typical films you'd find here and there, but it was something real about it. Another film I want to just shout out now because it just crossed my mind, and I saw it at the Carlton Cinema. So this one I did see at an actual theater. But Crumb. Great movie. Fucking great, right?
Yeah, another great character study for sure. Yeah. No, it's yeah.
I'm just on the way out here. I'm just shouting out great docs, really. But I loved Crumb.
It's I love it too. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And a great biopic. Shout out to Harvey Pekar and American Splendor. Geez, that was good too.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, that's a biopic though. Okay, my friend. So can you give us a clue? What's next for you? Obviously, people are going to go to that website with the www, and they're going to sign up to get the link so they can watch this, and then they're going to let Mike at TorontoMike.com, Mike at TorontoMike.com, that's correct. Let me know what you thought, and we can have a little chat about this. Candy, Ronnie and Phil, Jack, Kingy, and Grizz. I don't know if I would have learned about these people I bike by on the reg if you didn't take the time to film and share. So you did that. I watched. I think that's half the battle, because I wasn't thinking Kire until I watched the film, and then I went back and said, how do I get Kire in the basement? That's how it went for me. So somebody hearing us chat right now might do the exact same thing. Watch the doc and then be like, I want to talk to Kire.
Absolutely.
So can you give us a clue what's next?
Yeah, so I'm in post-production right now with a new feature film. It's a fiction, so something I wrote. We shot it last June, and I'm in Hamilton now, so filmed it in Hamilton. It's called Junkie Run.
Did you come here from Hamilton?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I almost feel guilty now.
No, that's fine.
Am I sending you home in rush hour?
Absolutely.
But you are.
That's good.
You will take the lasagna.
I'll eat it on the way home.
It's frozen.
Yeah.
You're going to break your teeth, man. You're going to break your teeth. Okay, Hamilton. I had a former CHFI, my most recent guest came in from Niagara-on-the-Lake. Like, he drove from Niagara-on-the-Lake to be here. And I had a moment of like, oh, don't do that. But he really enjoyed his time, and he was glad to do it, and he did get the swag. You don't get that on every podcast. I'm just warning you right now, Kire. But you driving in from Hamilton, it's the same kind of deal. I shouldn't feel guilty because you get the lasagna, you get the beer, you get the speaker, and you got the book from Toronto Maple Leafs Baseball and the measuring tape. I shouldn't feel guilty.
Don't feel guilty.
Okay, did I interrupt you? You're still talking about...
Junkie Run.
Junkie Run. And what's that about?
It's a chase film set in Hamilton. So,
but is it a fictional?
It's fiction. So it's a script I wrote. So think basically like something like Cannonball Run, or It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World.
Yeah.
But with characters from like a Bukowski novel. So it all takes place in kind of this dive bar in Hamilton. About they kind of get word one of their own came into a little bit of money, so they all try to find them first and take their money, and it's kind of like chaos ensues.
Are there any cameos? Like, will I see a cameo with Tom Wilson from Junkhouse, for example?
No, you will see.
Not your style? I feel like that would be cool, like to put some Easter egg cameos.
You will see Mickey the Sadist
at a bar, or something.
And you will see Chris Houston from Forgotten Rebels. They're in it.
Okay,
yeah, that's a Hamilton. Yeah.
Well, these. So I was. Oh no, I did. So I typically sometimes I pick these up, just have something in my hand. These are drumsticks from Teenage Head. Gene Champagne gave these to me.
We're using Disgusting in the film. It's in the another great Hamilton band.
Dude, I love this. Kire, you're now in FOTM, and if I'm lucky, you'll be at TMLX 18 on May 11th at Christie Pitts, and even more importantly, you'll be at TMLX 19 June 26th at Great Lakes Brewery in Southern Etobicoke. I would love to see you there, but I'm just happy to meet you, man.
Thanks, man. Great.
I hope Zwag enjoyed this. He's listening right now. Zwag, hello. Zwag, he's sort of cryptic.
Hi, Alan.
He has a new thing out, and he doesn't really want to talk about it. Like, what?
His new film?
Yeah, I like, oh, you got a new movie coming in. Like, I got a new thing out. Like, he's sort of like, humble about it. Like, this thing, whatever. But have you seen the new movie?
I haven't seen it. I know a bit about it, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it'll be out this fall.
Oh, I thought it was out now. Maybe. Okay,
oh, is it? Maybe it is. I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
you know more than I do. But you know more than I do. Thanks for doing this. I'm gonna again without the W's. What is that URL again?
Madebyotherpeople.com.
Madebyotherpeople.com. Go there, sign up for the newsletter, get the link, watch Always Had a Nice Time, and let me know what you thought. And that brings us to the end of our 1683rd show. Go to torontomike.com. No W's required. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. They were over today to record a new episode of Between Two Fermenters, so that'll be dropping next Tuesday. Palma Pasta, they're going to feed us at TMLX 19. Maneris, remember to subscribe to Yes We Are Open. Toronto Maple Leafs Baseball. Welcome back, Toronto Maple Leafs Baseball. We'll be seeing you May 11th when Sato makes her first start for the Leafs. Speaking of Leafs, are you a hockey fan?
No.
Then I won't ask you what's going to happen tonight. Okay,
I know what's going to happen tonight. I'm pretty sure.
So you're saying get ready for Game 7 on Saturday night. Okay.
Pretty much.
RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Building Toronto Skyline and Ridley Funeral Home. See you all tomorrow. This is exciting. This is very, very exciting. The next two guests are musicians you'll be interested in hearing from. Brendan Canning, founder of Broken Social Scene, co-founder anyway, will be here in the basement tomorrow. Brendan Canning. And then Monday, the informer himself, Snow, is visiting.
Wow.
Snow's going to be sitting down here. Can you imagine? You'll want to come back for that one.
Really?
See you all then.